Subaru is not a crybaby, nor is he a bad main character. You simply don't want so much realism in your fictional stories. Before I explain why it's so ridiculous, I'm just going to preface this. It's completely fine if you don't like Subaru or ReZero. This video is addressing the people who think they are both objectively bad just because they don't personally like them. I'm going to start with one of the first takes I've heard on the matter, which goes something like, "It's bad writing for Subaru to cry or be so affected by the death of his friends when he knows that he could just turn back time." Now, this take is at least somewhat grounded in logic, so I'm not super angry or anything, but it's really just a one-dimensional thought process that forgets a lot of context and nuance. The biggest flaw with that critique is definitely the fact that it blatantly forgets how complex time travel actually is. To help you understand, I will ask you this. What thoughts do you think would be going through your head if you watched your loved ones die horrifically, but knew that you could go back in time to make sure it doesn't happen? I'm sure the first thing you thought was, well, obviously, I'm just going to go back and fix it. No problem. But you are forgetting something. What are the consequences for going back in time? Do you fracture the timeline and create a new one where your family didn't die? In which case, what about your loved ones from the original timeline? You still failed to protect them. But theoretically, what if Satella destroys the universe that you died in? That means not only did your loved ones die, but an entire reality died because you failed. These would be completely nauseating thoughts if you were in his position. Unless, of course, you think it's super cool to not have feelings or whatever. But this, I believe, highlights your problem. You either forget or blatantly ignore crucial context, which actually leads into my next point. You don't seem to understand what Subaru is and what he is supposed to be. At the very start of the series, Subaru is nothing but a regular 17-year-old boy who is already suffering from depression and an intense feeling of meaninglessness. You wouldn't actually expect an immature kid who's already in an unstable mindset to fare that well after being ripped away from his world and cursed with an ability to die over and over again in a world that seems to do everything in its power to make him suffer, would you? This was the main point of Season 1. He had his hopes raised. He would finally find some meaning now that he is in a different world, just like all of those other isekai he read in his world. Except it isn't like the other stories. He wasn't granted any super strength, no intelligence boost. He had no advantages. He couldn't even read anything. And the worst part is he almost immediately gets jumped and beaten by some random thugs. Emilia does save him, but soon after both him and Emilia are brutally murdered. Now he begins to realize that his life has actually only gotten worse now that he is in this new world. The only good thing that happened to him at first was Emilia, slowly causing what can only be described as a trauma bond, as she is the only person that helped and the only consistently good thing in his life now. This continued to get worse and worse as the Season 1 progressed. His deaths grew worse. He was taken in only to be betrayed for something he knew nothing about. It all continued to pile up until he finally lashed out, just like any teenager does, only he isn't lashing out at strict parents. He's lashing out at a universe that seems to hate him, which leads to him being humiliated further and ultimately abandoned by Emilia, who was his only light in the world. So he tried to give up. But Rem was there now, and she didn't abandon him despite his out-of-control behavior. Instead, she stayed to help him overcome whatever it was that causing him so much agony, showing him that there is more light in this world than just Emilia, and maybe it isn't all in black and white either. As the super awesome Emilia left him on a dime. Yet the very person who just killed him not too long ago stayed to help. After this, he finally has the tools to mature and adapt. Even if he still failed miserably a few times, that's simply part of the learning curve of life. Another major thing you all seem to forget is that Season 1 takes place within a month or two. It's not like Subaru had any time to process anything. It was just constant, unending chaos that he had to tame himself. What makes RE0 so unique and different is the hyperrealism and the real unfairness of reality. Unlike most other isekai protagonists, he doesn't already have any special traits, and he wasn't given any special powers either. He was just an inexperienced kid with average intelligence, average strength, and a curse that he had to turn into an amazing power himself in order to survive. So, long story short, if the majority of people who have seen ReZero think that both Season 1 and Subaru himself are objectively amazing, then I think it's high time for you to put your ego in check and figure out whether or not it's simply something that you don't personally like, which, as I said before, is perfectly fine.